Hi, everyone. Welcome to Dividends, the show for and about your College of Business. And my guest today, in full disclosure, is also a good buddy in the College of Business, and he's doing some great work. In fact, so much so, he's taken the whole show. So Dr. Erik Markin joins us. He's in the School of Management. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
The first thing we're going to talk about is the fun part, and that is the trip abroad. And I know that lots of college folks that have gone abroad while in school say that was one of the highlights of their college experience. So I guess the question is, why do you do it? Why is that important to take students abroad?
I really think that giving students access and interacting with other countries, businesses in other countries, is really useful because they understand different motives for people running businesses. Like, in U.S. business schools, we tend to focus on profit and, as the main driver for, keeping your business going, growing it, the American dream, so to speak. And while there's nothing wrong with that, right? In Italy, it's a little bit different, tends to be. Sometimes it's relationship building.
Family?
Yeah, family.
So are we a bit myopic, and that's sort of an accusation tossed out to Americans in just about anything. But do we tend to be a little bit myopic in our business, thinking it's just so American-centric and it's all about the dollar, and so taking them there? What are some of the reactions you've seen from the students?
Yeah, students really take in the notion, you think about our restaurants, for instance, a lot of it's focused on turnover. How can we serve, get them there, get them turned over quick, get new people in the tables. In our visit in Italy, it was, people we sat around for 4 hours. And it really wasn't a rush. In fact, it was, how else can we make you comfortable? How can we make you feel like a part of the family? Yeah. Folks would, the wait staff.
Can you imagine, though, trying to do that in this country?
No, not really. And I've owned 2 restaurants, and I know my ideas were like, all right, how can I make this to where we can get them in and out and maximize our space? So no, it was eye-opening for me too. And I don't know that we're myopic to speak, but we don't tend to focus on those softer parts of running a business. And
so what are some other stops along the way?
Some other stuff, we obviously saw a lot of the cultural places, took in, the historical piece. Some other things we went to, other than the restaurant, we went to a family-owned leather goods manufacturer. The interesting part about this is one of the favorite stops for students, mainly because they got to understand the whole value chain and see this relatively small operation in rural part of Italy that had international reach. They shared a lot of their numbers, and they're like, well, how do you do international work? Well, come find out, it's a simple connection with someone in the U.S. and an effective website, and these folks do millions of dollars a year in international sales.
No kidding.
Right.
So how do you find these businesses to, because you don't want to take them to all the conglomerates, right? I mean, that's you particularly, you study family business.
Right.
So how do you find these little businesses?
So we were a little bit lucky, and some of the folks that we worked with the study abroad company, they live in Florence, and so they have a lot of these connections from years and years of doing this type of stuff. I made a fairly decent list of places I'd like to go see and take the students, and they were able to make some connections, offer some alternatives and things like that.
Great. Now, are these just business students, and are they just in accounting or finance, or you get a wide range of students in?
No, that's a good question. So our program is pretty unique. Dr. Charles Freeman puts this together for the most part, but there were 5 schools, 5 disciplines, if you will, going on this trip. So we had over 50 students.
Wow.
And so my section was on entrepreneurship and family business.
Okay.
Right. And so we had a dozen students for our
do you have
college.
those interdisciplinary conversations? Because to me, those would be the fascinating ones, how this ties into this.
That's a really good point. And that's honestly one of the most interesting things that I took away from it. Our students did interact a lot. Take the leather goods place. we had business students there who were interested in asking questions about the business aspects.
Right.
But then there were fashion students that were there about, the changes, and I'm going to butcher all that, so hopefully I don't offend anyone. But, what's in this season, what's coming up,
Right.
and things like that. So they took in a lot of that. But when our students interacted with each other about the experience, the things that business students took in that wouldn't have been on the standard scope, right, was really interesting and added a lot of value.
And that's just something you don't get necessarily in an American classroom, right? To go out there and have that experiential.
Right.
Yeah. How was it traveling with a bunch of college kids? I just, part of that seems like it would be a challenge.
Well, it went really well. For the most part, because we had quite a bit of distance between our visits, we had 2 chartered buses. So obviously we're very relaxed, and we have everything we need there on the bus, and able to go at our own pace if we needed to. Some other options for travel were a little more dicey when you have to catch the metro here.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And connect here and there and all that. So, but we made it, and we had a good time.
And you're going back, so that
right.
says something. Take a lot of pictures. I want you to come back and do some more. Do it like a show and tell.
Yeah,
Can you do that?
be happy to.
All right. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be back with more in just a moment. Stay tuned.
So you have an idea. It's exciting. It's original. It's genius. And you think it could be the next big thing. But how do you turn this idea into reality? At the Entrepreneurship Center, we will guide you through every step of the entrepreneurial process and help along the way, from developing and enhancing your idea to building your product and bringing it to market. Our programs will help refine your idea and connect you with other creative individuals. You can collaborate with students and discover their brilliant ideas, learn from expert faculty and accomplished business leaders, and even receive money to expand your venture and start your own company. Whether your idea is a revolutionary product, app, or service, we can help. The Entrepreneurship Center at Mississippi State University. From invention to innovation, it starts here.
Welcome back, everyone. Again, my guest is Dr. Erik Markin. He is a professor in management at Mississippi State. He, as you just learned, a world traveler. But we also work together with students who are getting their MBAs at Mississippi State. And the last class you take, if you get an MBA at State, is a capstone course where you have to go do a real consulting project with a real client. And this sort of brings together all they've learned in the classroom. But again, it's kind of like the trip abroad. There are some pieces to this you just can't get in the classroom. So we saddle them up with a real client and solve a real problem, and you never know what's going to pop up, and something always does that's unexpected.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So you've been doing this a couple of years now.
Right.
What are some of the projects you've worked on that not only you think were educational for the students, but also brought some value to the client? And that's the important part of this. We want the clients to walk away not thinking they got an academic book report, but a real consultant report where they can use it to sort of make smart decisions moving forward, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's the goal, right? That and to give our students exposure to this type of problem solving, that they're able to communicate real clearly with potential employers, and it gives them some real pop, I think, in their interview to say, oh yeah, no, we've dealt with a real business problem. And so some of those in the past, we've had so many exciting and interesting ones that just run the gamut of problems. But one of those...
When you say pop, that leads me to pickleball.
That's right, pickleball.
Yeah, that's all the rage. And the city of Starkville has just, in the last month, opened 12 brand new pickleball courts, and they're going to host tournaments. Last night, actually, there were over 100 people, a lot of college kids playing out there. And that is a bit of a direct result from the team. So recap that project for us.
No, I like to think so. So the city obviously asked, what options are there? What could we do? What could we look at? Is there real demand and things like that? So our students went out and they scoured the Southeast for similar size cities and their programs as far as pickleball. This went from Opelika, Alabama, over, even up to our neighbors in Oxford, right? There was a lot of good conversation, a lot of benchmarking work that they did to find out what are they doing and how much are they spending and are they getting the value out of it. I'd like to think that their efforts played a role in a lot of the stuff that we've done here in Starkville.
What was neat was several of the students, I think it was a 4 or 5 person team, showed up in the mornings when sort of the seniors play and started playing the game, even if they hadn't before, and started socializing with the players to sort of get a feel for what they liked and what was the flow and how did they move around, right? And that's a real critical part. And then the seniors just loved having the college kids come in and play pickleball with them, and they got to sort of teach them. So I love that interaction. And I know that's one of the benefits of pickleball is the sort of the socialization and the community piece of it.
Right.
So for you guys to do this, it really did accelerate getting those courts built. So there's a tangible benefit, not just for the city, but for the community.
Right.
All right, let's run through one more real quick.
Okay, so this year we're working on a couple of interesting projects, well, several actually, but a couple we can talk about. We've got a local Mississippi hot sauce that they're working with, and right now they're looking at some supply side issues, trying to figure out what's feasible, what meets the constraints or the requirements of the client. You know, they're looking at the cost side of that. Then also, once they're able to, you know, potentially solve some of those issues, what does capacity look like as far as production? How can they help to build more market for him, and also his distribution? So they're going to run a whole what we'd call a value chain analysis here and try to get this thing optimized.
Yeah. So when you think about it, it covers everything from it can be supply chain, it can be marketing, it can be SWOT analysis, competitor analysis. And the neat thing about it is it's not as if the teams come in and say, okay, here's the template, this is the work we're going to do. And what I really like about it and think is unique is they come in and they say, okay, where are your pain points?
Right.
And that's what we're going to work on.
That's right.
And I think that is so unique, and to customize those consulting pieces, I think that's where the real value is.
I totally agree. In fact, I love the whole process. It's very difficult. It puts students in a place where they've really never been, and you know, they get to stretch themselves.
Well, I know it helps to have that on a resume, and I know it helps that they have had to work as a team for business, so it just ups that level of preparation. So again, the man who's doing it all for you at Mississippi State, Dr. Erik Markin. Appreciate your time today. Appreciate your time today, and we'll see you next time on Dividends.